I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. Man, I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with this hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is still on assignment. I need to check, put an APB out on Mike. Man, didn't even call me. I don't know if he's still working with the team or not. I don't even know if he just shot us the gun. Are we good? But I'll check with him, see what's going on. Has he hit you up, Charles?
I haven't heard from him since I saw him in the airport. I know he's working.
So you can give him credibility that you did see him running through the airport and saying he had to get somewhere and come. All right. Well, that helps.
Precisely. Exactly.
That helps a little bit. Well, it looks like I'm gonna be putting you on the airport in a little bit, getting you going, work with some students, and so we all have to do what we do. I just came off 2 trips over the last 2 weeks. We'll get in maybe a little bit of that. But welcome to episode 640 of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports for institutions large and small, from the NAIA to the NCAA. We share information and insights on the HBCU sports culture, HBCU athletic aesthetics to facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs and the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host, Charles Bishop. We're filming from our home studio, Signal Live, KCOH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer, multi-Hall of Famer, I should say, Ralph Cooper, in the beautiful home of Houston, Texas. With that being said, Charles, how you doing today?
Doing well, Doc. Doing well. We moved from, one season right into the next. So the ping of the bat and is right here with us now with baseball and softball going. So it doesn't stop from week to week within following HBCU sports.
Last week we were able to touch a little bit of baseball. You did a great job of giving us, the poll rankings for the what Black College 9 speaks about as the large and small division. We call that the major division and mid-major division, respectively. I did want to give an update. Usually on Tuesday, we give our poll rankings. We have one game left in the entire HBCU ecosystem, if you allow me to use that, and that is Coppin State set for the WNIT second round matchup from MEAC Sports. And so a win or lose essentially will push those then, but I wanted to either get things closed, how that may have the final ranking set up, and we can discuss that on Thursday. So as you talked about today, we'll talk about news, obviously, but we'll get into a little bit of the SWAC race. We might touch on the top teams in the SIAC, maybe a little bit of softball, but mainly we'll stick to baseball. We'll give you some updates, stats. We'll overload you with all that good information, some key matchups, and even talk about some of the key games coming up this week throughout the rest of the show in between our segments. But before we get too much further along with that, I did see where Tuskegee took 2 out of 3 from Miles, which I thought was a little bit interesting. Usually Miles is up there with Albany State. We talked a couple of weeks that Albany State got a victory and knocked off number 1, the midweek type of matchup. So that was big for them. But let's get back into some news. I want to get your thoughts in terms of what some of the HBCU news is out there. I think it might be a little bit not conference churning, but coaching churning. You might decide to go in that direction. I'm interested to see what's hot on your mind, the news that you decide to share that really has you thinking about HBCU sports at this time. What's on your mind, Charles?
Well, yeah, and let's take a look at it as it's been reported this afternoon. Actually, it was kind of breaking news within the past hour, but Alabama A&M's coach Otis Hughley is expected to resign and from Alabama A&M. So we have another potential opening within the Southwestern Athletic Conference at Alabama A&M. So that makes
so we have Bussy last week going to Chicago. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you were right. In terms of Coach Bussy. Going to Chicago State.
Leaving Auburn State SWAC school, going to Chicago State. Mm-hmm. Now you're saying that Alabama A&M will have an opening because they're not renewing the contract. I guess the correct term there. That he fulfilled it, and they decided to go in a different direction in terms of their look. We've seen a coach stepping down on the women's side from Prairie View. There was talks out there that Alabama State legendary coach is also retiring. I think is the term they use there. Mm-hmm. You saw Coach Vickers, Norfolk State, going to Auburn in terms of a move on that side. So fascinating in terms of the basketball churning landscape with coaches, both on men's and women's at the Division I level. We'll see what that means maybe at the Division II level. So that'll be interesting. So we will have some basketball talk that kind of goes on over the next couple of weeks, seeing what direction teams and institutions are going in terms of their basketball coaching hires. So that's going to be fascinating to see what that looks like. I wonder if any of these D2 coaches that have had some great seasons, some of them had multiple seasons, will they get the chance maybe to elevate in terms of the HBCU platform? Or will you see what a lot of the programs have gone recently is staying at the Division I level and going to get hot assistant coaches? So it'll be fascinating to kind of see, will we see that trend continue, or we see a different trend, or will we have multitude of different things going on?
Well, it's kind of fascinating in what direction schools are looking at, especially when you kind of see some success postseason with regards to HBCU basketball. I think that's been very notable in terms of the success the teams have had in the first four, as well as WNIT. So it's very interesting to see in what direction schools are starting to take a look at. And you know, you can really, I guess, from a Division I perspective, start looking at HBCU schools, these SWAC and MEAC schools, as true mid-majors in terms of the talent that they're acquiring from year to year now. So, and that's starting to blossom itself into some postseason success.
Excellent points you make there. We had what seemed like a record amount of Division I teams on the women's side that we got postseason play. Obviously, you had the big win by Southern in the first four on the women's side. But you also had a couple of those in the WBIT, if you would, in terms of the NIT on the women's side. Essentially, three of the five teams postseason got wins. Was a couple out of the SWAC. We saw that with Texas Southern. Howard and Coppin out of the MEAC got wins in terms of their Division I postseason. We just alluded to Coppin State is playing in the second round of that. Unfortunately, Texas Southern and Howard lost their matchup in terms of their second round. So you're right. It's going to be fascinating to see what that looks like. We saw the opposite on the men's side, Charles, where other than those that got the NCAA bid, we didn't have any postseason action from the CBI, NIT, and obviously it looked like these Black College Invitational Championship, BCIC, was looking to get in the Division I mix and didn't quite work itself out. So it'll be fascinating to your point. Where does that churn from here? What does that look like on the basketball side in terms of these teams? Shout out to Prairie View in terms of winning a bowling championship. They finished in the middle of the pack, if you would, in terms of the regular season, but got hot, stayed undefeated in terms of the tournament, and brought home a championship, having to come from behind to get it done. So fascinating work. New coach came in there, the previous coach that won several championships. I think that's like 4 in the last 6 years where they have won. Now you have coach taking over and being able to get hot in the tournament, get a championship. Shout out to A&T. They're affiliate members of the MEAC. And that sport that they are affiliated is bowling. And they took home the trophy. They've won it several times, so they're getting things done. So shout out to Dave, the Aggie fans out there. I actually had a gentleman that came up to me in Charlotte that was really glad to see me there and says that he tunes into the show all the time. So shout out to the Aggies and all the HBCU fans that support us, but particularly to that gentleman that took time and his energy and thought it was important to say hello. So I wanted to acknowledge him in terms of their presence. A lot of other folks spoke too, but he particularly wanted to make sure that he had my attention. So I'm giving him a little shout out back. Appreciate him in terms of the support he gives us on the show. But I'll shift back to you and see what other information is hot for you in the HBCU sports scene.
Well, we're never far from football. So SWAC Football Media Day. It was announced that it is set for July 16th. SWAC will host its annual Football Media Day on Wednesday, July 16th at 10 o'clock at the Sheraton, Birmingham. All 12 SWAC head coaches and 2 student athletes from each team will be attending to address the media regarding the upcoming 2025 football season. The league will also announce the 2025 football preseason teams as well as the predicted order of finish at the event. Media one-on-one interviews with coaches and student athletes will begin at 10 a.m. So the SWAC, they have set their media day for July 16th in Birmingham.
A couple of new coaches will be in tow. And so it'll be interesting to see what that looks. A lot of excitement always that time of the year. Fascinating. You've seen the SWAC Media Day kind of shift early in the week, later in the week. Now it's set right there
Right in the middle
of the week. So fascinating as folks gear up to make sure they get into Birmingham to talk about the football season. So you're right. Before you can even get into spring football, you have the Media Day announcement. So that's interesting in getting that information out there. So I guess you butter your bread where you need, and it's doing you well and it's tasty. So they fascinate and continue to see what that looks like. Anything else that you wanted to share that caught your interest? Obviously, outside of the SWAC a little bit in terms of football over there. A lot of people have talked about the announcement of Tennessee State in terms of bringing in Coach Barlow. Reggie Barlow, to be exact, has announced the deal to become the new head football coach at Tennessee State, obviously, with Coach leaving there to take the job up in Ohio, back where he's from, where he played his college days. And so it left the opening there. What are your thoughts in terms of that hire, just kind of coming off of things?
Well, obviously, Reggie Barlow has a tremendous amount of experience when you talk about his time being head football coach at Alabama State, time spent at Virginia State, and then bringing that pro experience, coaching in the UFL to Tennessee State. So all of those factors go in and kind of make him a prime target for Tennessee State. And they went out and got him. And, he's not shying away from some of the issues that they have at Tennessee State. So that, I believe, will be very interesting to see moving forward, how Tennessee State football sort of operates in this current climate that they're under right now.
Yeah, that's internal to the university with regards to the state, and externally with all the other factors that everybody else is dealing with. So it's going to be interesting to see what that looks like. And it's good that he's heading straight on. I went over there to Tennessee State fan blog, and a couple of days ago, I saw it. All the fans that were in there, except for one, were excited about the hire. Thought it was a good hire. One wanting to go outside of the HBCU proverbial space, which is always interesting to me, even with somebody that has so much experience in championships that he's won. Pro experience and all that kind of stuff, but still not good enough when you can educate your own, have them play for you. But coming back to a coach, that's a bit too much. So fascinating. But I'm glad that he got his opportunity, and credit to the AD for Dr. Mickey Allens for deciding that he saw him as the best fit for where they are at this time. It'll be interesting to kind of see how that goes. So quite a few football changes in the landscape. That means that matchup between Tennessee State and Alabama A&M will have two former players, obviously, in that matchup, but two new head coaches will start off that four-game series. Interesting. Who would have thought that a couple of months ago as that announcement was kind of turning its way. But now it'll be interesting to see what that looks like in tow. With that being said, let's take our first break. Come back on the other side. We'll tease out to see if there's any other things that you wanted to talk about in terms of some shout outs, or if you want to get into some baseball talk and where teams are ranked. I want to certainly get into your ideas of any teams that have shocked you a little bit early after 2 weeks of play. So we'll let you call the shot when we get back on the other side and see what you want to do. With that, we'll take our first break. See you shortly.
It's like a loop machine. Going around town, trying to get down. It's like a loop machine.
You're looking for the latest information on Southern University sports, the Southwestern Athletic Conference, and HBCU athletics. There's only one place to go. Tune in to the Carlos Brown Show, exclusively on the Black College Sports Network.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Sonia from She Say Sports. Make sure to check us out every Friday morning at 9 a.m. on Black College Sports Network, YouTube, and Linktree. And please don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube page.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Mills inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Charles Bishop. Professor Bishop, what do you say?
Well, I wanted to make sure I made mention of this. Our colleague, Sonia Stamps, is having a huge women's empowerment conference and panel discussion this upcoming weekend in Jackson. So I'm efforting to try to bring her on here to kind of talk about that a little bit of this upcoming week. But she is doing some big things in regards to hosting that during Women's Empowerment Month. So I wanted to be sure to shout her out, part of the BCSN team.
Shout out to Sonia getting it done. That is big time. She say sports, Women's Sports Summit, Mississippi Trade Center, $25 entry fee. That's very modest with the talent that is coming to the table. Obviously, you all in Jackson, Mississippi understand that the Mississippi trademark is at 1200 Mississippi Street. You have individuals such as Dr. Tawana Smith, sports executive and best-selling author, Coach Candace Foster, Murray High School girls basketball head coach, Marissa Stubbs, sports anchor reporter at 16 WAPT. You have Keisha Shelby, learning specialist, tutor coordinator at the University of Texas Longhorns Athletic Department. Elizabeth Stamps, CEO of Stamped It Sports and the SIP Project, WLBT training moderator. We'll get it going. Obviously, your host is none other than our very own Sonia Stapp. She say sports podcast, which you can see right here. So fascinating in terms of what that looks like, and wanted to make sure that we got that information. Great job, Charles. While I push this around, since we're talking a little bit of business, I want to stay here. Let's stay here and get your thoughts on this, and then we'll come back with the SWAC and give you some updates and take a deeper dive in baseball and get back to the sports on the field. But this is a fascinating where you kind of seem like you're getting, for lack of better words, maybe a bidding war between Charlotte and Baltimore. You're an HBCU fan, you pretty much know what this is about. This is the CIAA tournament. Biggest one out there for sure for HBCUs. Has a long history of success. One of the major sporting events in this country at any level, really, to be frankly with you, but particularly in basketball. HBCU Game Day got out there on the sports side of this and talked about, got some quotes as the bids are churning and coming around. Charlotte says it's confident in a chance to win CIAA bid after update they did. Fascinating for me. Charlotte, North Carolina was hotly pursuing the crown jewel of the HBCU basketball, the CIAA tournament. City officials were recently given an update on the bid to get the CIAA tournament back to Charlotte by members of the Charlotte Regional Visitors Authority. Baltimore has hosted the tournament since 2021. I've had the opportunity to go to Charlotte a little bit earlier, over 10 years ago, right in the middle of its last framework of when it had it. And then I also recently, 2 years ago, got to go to Baltimore. So I saw the difference in terms of the growth, and you'll get a little more insight of what I mean by that. Baltimore has hosted the tournament, as I said, since 2021, after the oldest HBCU conference in the country decided to move its tournament to Baltimore back in 2019. Charlotte City Councilman James Mitchell expressed that it was on the city to bring a package that would lure the tournament that brought $656 million in economic impact to the city from 2006 to 2020. This includes getting people into the game. Baltimore has figured out one thing that we are not able to do, and that's put fans in the game, end quote. That's from Mitchell, who acknowledged, quote, when you look at the attendance ratings, Baltimore has done a better job of what they previously had done. Mitchell says competitive scholarship opportunities, attractive hotel rates, and exceptional venue experiences are the three areas where the bid to host the tournament from 2027 to 2029 is the case. He also is quoted saying, I'm confident that if we can check the three boxes, we'll have the Spectrum Center ringing for a whole week, end quote. Mitchell said, I'm confident we can match the scholarship dollars and very competitive on hotel rates. I think we're going to be smiling in July when the CIAA returns to Charlotte, end quote. Fascinating. He's putting out there. I got a little more for you before you get in there. I'm going to let you chump it up. I know there's a lot of questions and we'll go back and forth. Baltimore has indicated that it would like to keep the tournament in town. The Baltimore mayor said doesn't want it to leave. Baltimore Mayor Brandon M. Scott told HBCU Game Day in February, quote, and in this particular moment, we think that we're the perfect fit because of where we sit in this country, in the world, because of what we're going to invest in, and know that this is not just some transactional deal, that this is family. We're going to stand up for the CIAA no matter who is attacking it, end quote. Baltimore has a compelling case. Not only has it focused return to the game since it moved to Charm City, but the CIAA has been the media focused on the positive things the historic HBCU tournament brings instead of violence of non-related events, as was the case in Charlotte. The decision on which the city will win the bid is expected this summer. Charles, let me give you a little more. Like I said, I've been in Baltimore, been in Charlotte, went back to Charlotte this past weekend. Bojangles is the arena that you're talking about. Previously, one thing that was concerning as they started to move, obviously, the negative high pricing hotels. We've seen this in our area with the Bayou Classic over a couple of years where people get into it. And we had some talk of how that takes place and how you need to get the weight up in some ways to be able to do and not be afraid to move, first of all, of shifting that landscape. So folks do have to stay competitively on the edge. But when they had the game in Charlotte, they played the two games in one arena early in the week and then shifted to the arena because they didn't want to give everything over. So it'd be interesting to see how that kind of shapes out from that perspective. But I know some things were on your mind, churning. What are your thoughts in terms of, one, where the CIAA is and the fact that they have this competitive action of bids? You even heard like Atlanta maybe trying to sneak in here. Some other cities such as Raleigh or whatever, but it looks like maybe the two finalists to some degree are going to be Baltimore and Charlotte.
I'm very curious about, and it's a consumer question, what is a competitive hotel rate? Because, and the reason why I asked this, when I kind of threw out, some strengths and weaknesses in terms of the project that we're looking at in my class, one of the things that the first thing that jumped out, at least for students, was hotel cost and things of that nature. So my first question was, what was the research that was done to sort of find out what is a competitive hotel rate? Because in a lot of ways that drives traffic.
Yeah, I think what's interesting in this case, Charles, if you go back, and it gives you some indication of how strong a conference is in terms of the loyalty of the fans. This is not something that a conference per se can just decide to do, put in their package. This is something over years of getting the support from the fans, that they come in such large numbers and they stay in hotels, eat at the restaurant, buy tickets in terms of going into the game. So if you recall, when the CIAA put up their RFQ, request for bids, one of the caveats they put in there that there had to be so many hotel rooms at a hotel rate that they named. I can't remember. We can go back and look at it. It was on HBCU game day. But they had a rate that the hotel, a block of hotel rooms, let's say 200 some rooms at a rate, just to talk $200 some or whatever, or less. So they put it in the RFQ that requires a set amount of hotels to be at a certain rate. So in this case, whatever work they did stated what a competitive rate that they are requesting for a city to earn the rights to get it. And when you're talking about 600, $500 million, right? And an economic impact, as you talk about into your students, it dictates to some degree what kind of framework you have. So imagine like the NFL or the Olympics, if they decided to, they may have a block and they may use it all for their, those that work on certain committees to make sure that they are able to do the work. Because a lot of those folks obviously remember they get volunteers to do some work. Well, it's going to be hard if you not paying somebody, right? You ask them to volunteer, and you're not even giving them, for those that may be coming out of state or out of town for sure, right? Not even giving them the ability to stay in a reasonable price room. Now, again, all this dictates various different things. This is what economics is about. How many rooms are in the city available? Are you competing against other events at that time? So a lot of times you'll put in your RFQ if you had that ability. One of the things, if you remember, CIAA does very strategically, it's pretty much the first basketball conference. I mean, regardless of divisions, obviously you got Division I, Division II. Well, they even go before the Division II. So they're 2 weeks ahead of even the Division I games, right? So they get in front of that and saying, hey, we got a big event. We're going to do our stuff early, which allows them to have cities that understands that now they take out the competition for other conferences necessary to get in the mix that may drive up the rates, right? So all these little things are very strategic in terms of the timing that they do stuff. So a lot of credit has to go to the CIAA, the leadership, obviously, the commissioner, the presidents and chancellors that are involved over a period of time, recognizing strategic moves they made in the game that puts them in the best position to push for some of these things back from the city.
So my question becomes, how much is the CIAA tournament a template for other for classics? I think
the challenge you get for classics, remember, right, is there's obviously some components you can do, but the thing that we got a challenge with the classics, oftentimes the classic has a third constituent involved. They have a third party involved. The promoter. Mm-hmm. The promoter is in charge of that. The other thing with classics, particularly some of these long-standing classics, they don't really move. Right? So again, one of the abilities to drive down the rates, is the fact that they're willing to move the classic, right? So you got multiple cities bidding on it. So that creates the competition necessarily. If you're in a said city and you're not really a move, unless you have really good relationships with the businesses and the sports authority, city council folks that understand the value, you have somebody on that council now that is pushing for others involved to understand, what a classic brings to the table. So I think this is more something you look at from the SWAC office. We kind of seen this with the football SWAC championship game, right?
And that's what I was
CIAA or SIAC championship.
Right.
I think it's something for that monitor, to take place. You can put bids out that. The thing that the SWAC has in regards to the football championship is now they have financial numbers associated with the value of when they play it on the campus. Mm-hmm. So now you have a direct relationship that if you do take the SWAC championship game out for bid, that's the number you're going to look for. So let's say, for example, essentially that a conference member that hosts the championship games, let's just make it easy calculation that they're able to generate $750,000. We know it's been about $750,000 to $1.25 million, right? A $500,000 range. So we can say just an average is about $1 million that you're going to get. So if you go to the table, those are the kind of numbers that you're going to want a city to equal that, if not more, to justify to the presidents to say that it's in our best interest to take this to a neutral location. And while fans may be comfortable like it, fans have to understand that part of this is business. And it's not just business in terms of what makes you more comfortable. I would like the SWAC in Houston. Obviously, it'd be easy. I could sleep at home. You know what I'm saying? I could get to the game. Even if I want to stay at a hotel, I wouldn't have to buy travel, airline tickets. Obviously, we work and get our money together in such a way that, it costs us nearly $1,000 to go to some of these events in terms of staying there over any period of time to do the coverage. We see the value in it. Obviously, we create some business strategies to make sure that we get that cost pretty much covered. But that's what it takes in terms of covering it. So imagine the fans to do that. So a lot of fans would like the SWAC championship game in Jackson, and they'll say, hey, the interest is there. But let's be honest, they want it in Jackson because it's more comfortable for it to be in Jackson. Mm-hmm. Those in Baton Rouge, they want it in Baton Rouge. Those in Atlanta say, no, we love it in Atlanta. Keep it in Atlanta. Those in Houston say, when is it coming back to Houston? Those in Baltimore that were in Birmingham was like, no, it's great to have it in Birmingham. Those that are interested. Now, you have your other fans attached to it as we talk about the marketing escalator, right? The other thing that we forget about, that we have different levels of fans. Like you have your more mature fans, oftentimes categorized, that support the SWAC true and true. They have a connection. They have the disposable income. They come around. You have your lot of college fans that you were talking about. They're going to be more price sensitive. They're not making a lot of money. Mm-hmm. So those are things. So the question is when you move, you look at all these different categories and you try to position it in such a way. So for the SWAC, for example, or the CIAA, they may work with the institutions and say, hey, let's put our spring break around the tournament time, if you can figure that into your calculation. Let's look at sending buses where we help the students get there to help leverage their costs in terms of that. So there's various things that you might want to do to help support, to incubate the new fan base in regards to how they get involved, but doing stuff that helps support the middle, if you would, of the escalator fan base versus the very high fan base that probably is going to go to it regardless. Like, there's a group that we saw coming back with us from Texas Southern University that have been following Texas Southern University for 20 years. They've been part of the basketball booster group that when they had it under Coach Morley. And that group, for the most part, about 10 strong, that will travel regardless of the distance, the financial part. They plan their golfing experiences around it, right? I'm just talking about that group. Now, there were a lot more of Texas Southern that came, but that particular group that you will see pretty much anywhere.
That's their annual trip.
Annual trip for the SWAC basketball game. They are all in. They're going to be there, right? And so you have those, and some are larger, some are smaller. And I'm talking about fan base. Then you have some fans that have, over the years, done a better job in terms of putting together travel packages. Quickly can arrange buses to make sure that you get fans that are attached to those fans and that are comfortable in terms of just being on the bus. They may not like traveling by the fare, whether it's financial or not. They just like the camaraderie of being on the bus.
Yeah.
So some fan bases over the years that have cultivated that.
Yeah.
We just talking about Tennessee State. They one group at one time, Tennessee State, when they would come with 3 or 4 buses. I heard them talking about that they've lost that. Whether those folks aged out, whether the interest, whether it was losing in terms of that. Jackson State, Southern, Alcorn. Yeah. I think they're good places that have a fan base that travels 4 or 5 buses to particular championships or classic games, but even regular season games, you'll see their fans have at least 1 or 2 buses. Alabama A&M is very big about having at least 1 bus of fans that travel. So there's some that do it better. MEAC, you see that maybe A&T, but some groups not at all. So those are things that you all take place when you're looking at how do you talk about the dynamic components of a fan base. So with that discussion, really got into that. Hope that is fascinating. I think these are one of the things as you talk about the businesses, you incubating fans, getting to understand that. Certainly when you talk about students that want to get in the business of sport, these are things that they have to consider as they're working with organizations or cities in terms of bringing up sport municipalities about how do they put the perfect puzzle together to attract that kind of fan base. Let's take our second break. We'll come back on the other side, and as we promised, we'll get into a little bit of baseball as we get ready for the baseball tournament that is heading back to Birmingham as it spent 2-year stint in Atlanta. Now they're in Birmingham, and it'll be at Rickwood Field, historic field there. We'll be right back after this break.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties. Through its programs, Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and Instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
The human voice has always connected audiences with experiences. Major brands all across America have trusted Kever's voice time and time again. Conversational, powerhouse, intelligent, and sincere. That's the voice you need for your creative marketing process. KEAVERSVOICE.com. Kever's Voice, Kever's Voice, KeversVoice.com. Always on, all the time.
It's never too early to plant the seed, to share the tradition, and instill a sense of pride in your HBCU with your little ones. HBCU Pride and Joy Children's Boutique helps you share your school spirit with a wide selection of adorable kids apparel and accessories officially licensed from your favorite HBCU. Visit hbcupridejoy.com and follow us on all social media at HBCU Pride Joy on Facebook and Twitter.
When it comes to professional learning, teachers deserve better. From the leader in online learning, Stride brings you the Stride Professional Development Center, an on-demand library of mobile-friendly courses that gives teachers choice and flexibility, allowing them to learn anytime and anywhere. Our dynamic courses provide bite-sized learning and help educators advance their knowledge while also gaining professional development hours. It's time you take charge of your learning. Visit us today to get started.
Compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Bills inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Charles Bishop. Professor Bishop, let's get into some baseball and talk about the records part of it first. Get into some statistics in terms of who's doing hot in various areas. We can look at it in terms of batting average, home runs, stolen bases, maybe kind of on the offensive side. We can look at it in terms of stats of wins, and then maybe some defensive stuff such as ERA and strikeouts. We'll talk about a little bit of that perspective. But I want to focus on these records right now. I know it's just 2 weeks in, and so a lot of us will reach back to this episode and say, what are you talking about? But you can look at these rankings in quadrants with 12 teams, which means you break it down in threes for 4 quadrants, or you can build it into the triplets. And you look at it in 3 ranking systems with 4. But if you allow me, based on the rankings, I'm going to cheat a little bit. I'm going to do 5 at the top, 5 at the bottom, and then we'll just have 2 in the middle. And you'll see when I say the records why I kind of went outside of traditionally how I like to look at where teams are in the top quadrant or bottom quadrant in terms of those rankings. But at the bottom, you have Alcorn State at 0-6. Unfortunately for those Braves, that may not be a surprise. It's been a while in terms of them being competitive in baseball, even though historically we remember the days
Red McGowan,
Barrett, when he had a tremendous run and won the conference.
Yeah.
Played down here in Houston and Rice. I got a chance to be a media credential and interview him for that event there as well. Mississippi Valley is 1-5, struggling a bit themselves. They did win the last game in terms of conference play, so interesting to see if they can move past that. Then you have Alabama A&M at 2-4. But listen to the next 2 teams that are also at 2-4, which I'll be frank, I won't even have to, ask you to put this on the table first. But frankly, for me, there's no way you would have told me after 2 weeks that you would have Southern and Jackson State at 2-4
Precisely.
in this new framework of the conference rankings. So let's stop right there. What are your thoughts in terms of the bottom, in this case, 5 teams in the SWAC, where they sit after 2 weeks, 6 games?
It's stunning to see Southern and Jackson State already with 4 losses in conference play. That just completely, if you've watched SWAC baseball for a number of years, just these 2 teams were always fighting it out, 1-2, for a long, long time. And this is the current state of where we are within the competitiveness of SWAC baseball, with Florida A&M, Bethune-Cookman joining the conference. Over the last 20 years of the success of Texas Southern and Prairie View, and this is where we are. Jackson State and Southern are already with 4 losses in conference play, and it's jarring to see.
Yeah, I know it's early. If you look at the top of the conference, you have teams at 5-1. I'm gonna save them a little bit, but I did want to touch on the fact that, like you said, they're 3 games back. So you need, if you want to immediately make that push, you would need a sweep
You got sweeps.
You need a sweep in one weekend to kind of catch teams. Obviously, you can chop off a little bit and win some 2s or 3, which is more realistic and where we are with the conference today. To the exact point, Prairie View got 2 or 3, took the first 2, and were trying to get the sweep. But that doesn't happen with teams that kind of are at least thought of as fighting in the middle or top of the pack. But they took advantage of what they got at home, 2 or 3. What's interesting to me, Charles, I want to get your thoughts on this before we move on to the top, the middle part of the pack, is that in this new format, you don't get a chance to really get your lick back.
Yeah.
Right? There's no return trip. You kind of get the benefit or the toughness of being able to play at home or away. I would think in a lot of ways, we'll see how this plays out, that Prairie View was able to take advantage of obviously playing good baseball right now, but they had those games at home. And I think there's a little difference when you're talking about playing on the bluff versus them getting on the road. But credit to Prairie View doing what they're supposed to do. With that being said, let's look at those teams in the middle. Alabama State and Arkansas Pine sit at 3-3, so they're right in the middle of the pack, 2 games back of the teams at the top. What are your thoughts in terms of Pine Bluff and Alabama State? Probably, in my opinion, surprised you a little bit about being in the middle, but credit to Pine Bluff. They're in the thick of things after 2 weeks.
Yeah, Pine Bluff, and what jumped out for me with regards to Pine Bluff, play they pounded the ball this weekend against Alcorn. I mean, you stop and take a look at them. Friday, 18 runs. They come back Saturday, another 12 runs, and then they put up 24 Sunday, which scares me with regards to the pitching in the conference or the pitching of Alcorn. But if you start kind of taking a look at the conference overall, right now through the first 2 weeks of the season, like the best pitching in the SWAC has a 6.03 ERA. So it's just like, wow, are the bats that good or the pitching that bad?
Good question. Good question. We'll see it play out a little bit more in as baseball kind of tells you tend to even that Mendoza line or wherever that is for your ball club or particular a player. And we'll see what that looks like as we at least get maybe into the middle of the season. You probably get a good chance then. But again, it's going to be fascinating. This is a new look as you have all teams lined up. So again, you don't have a chance to look at the first half of the season where everybody played everybody, and then they're going to return it whether it's home and away in terms of divisions. Now, again, you might get the luck of the draw where you tend to play teams. At least you can look back at the backside of the season where you got your less competitive games early on, or you might be the opposite, where you look at the end of the season, you find out that you got your more competitive game in the first part of the season, which is a lot of times just the way the luck of scheduling in this framework. So let's get to these top 5 before we take our second break, and then we'll come back and talk about some stats and getting to what games you'll be looking forward to this weekend. Again, we'll release the basketball and close out on basketball, if you would, in regards to Thursday with the final poll rankings on that show. But at the top of the conference, you start out these teams that are tied for second, which is Prairie View and Texas Southern. They're both at 4-2 in terms of the conference race right now. Those Texas teams, the rivalries there. And what's fascinating for me is Texas Southern had the trip of Valley. They swept Valley, which we see how they're doing. But they had to go on the road to Grambling, always a tough place to play. Grambling took 2 out of 3, was looking for the sweep, kind of what we saw with Prairie View. But Texas Southern was able to get 1 at least on the road, which to me is very important of where you see things in this conference, is not getting swept on the road. If you can steal 2 out of 3, or like, Texas Southern against Valley, where you're on the road, a team like that, you got to find a way to get the sweep. And they did that to the credit to kind of balance off things when you play your toughest game on the road game against Grambling, which you don't get your lick back. Right. Houston. And at the top, though, you lean on Florida. The state of Florida is controlling things. Credit to Grambling, which formerly was on the west side. It's going to be interesting to see what that looks like. But you have Bethune-Cookman at 5-1, FAMU at 5-1. Those top 5 things. Anybody surprise you that's up in the top of the conference, maybe?
I don't know if it's so much of a surprise, but one thing that we talked about with Grambling last year is they beat the cover off the ball, and they continue to do that now. Very interesting weekend series coming up as Grambling. They go to Jackson. Grambling has maybe 4 or 5 guys on their team from the city of Jackson. And sometimes when you talk to some of those people that watch a lot of Jackson baseball, they're scratching their head a little bit like, how did these guys get away? So, you know, that's some of the things that's going to be very interesting with regards to that series. But Grambling, absolutely. And we saw this in the Cactus Jack. Like, they just beat the cover off the ball. Pitching-wise, I don't know where they are. Some type way, they got it done. They cobbled it together in the SWAC tournament last year. But they can hit the baseball. And then Florida A&M and Bethune-Cookman just doing what they've done since they've come into this conference. They just consistently win and taking 2 out of 3, if not sweeping, week in, week out.
Yeah, good stuff. According to this, 3 of your top 5 teams are from the Western Division. I'm not sure if that'll stay like that, but that's an interesting thing to look at. Right now, 4 of your 5 bottom teams, 3 of your 5 bottom teams out of the East Division, just the opposite. Some fascinating things to kind of look at early. Talked about this, Charles, and I'll let you jump back in here. Mm-hmm. Of those 4 top teams, FAMU, Bethune-Cookman, Grambling, and Prairie View, were all looking for the sweep, but could not get it done.
Yeah. And that was a huge statement series for Prairie View over Southern this weekend, taking 2 of 3. That was very impressive.
Yeah, good points there. Let's take our last break, come back on the other side. Again, we'll get Charles to kind of double up. I'll get in here and give you some stats, but then I want to look at some key matchups coming this weekend. Like I said, we'll touch on maybe a little bit that late in the show on Thursday, but we'll dedicate it a little bit more time doing the poll rankings then. We'll be right back after our last break.
Planning an event? From weddings to corporate functions, CMJ Events LLC brings over 15 years of experience to make your vision a reality. Based in Metro Atlanta and serving statewide, even internationally, we provide versatile event planning and authentic catering cuisines tailored to your needs. Whether it's pre-game meals for student athletes, fundraisers, weddings, corporate functions, CMJ Events LLC is your one-stop solution for exceptional service and unforgettable food. Our diverse culinary heritage means we cater to all cultural tastes, dietary needs, and food restrictions, making every meal uniquely yours. Let's make your next event unforgettable. Visit us on all social media at CMJ Events LLC or email us at cmjeventsllc@gmail.com. Also give us a call at 404-664-3882 so that we can start planning now.
Compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Ville with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Charles, what's some of the things that are sticking out with you in terms of these statistics? Batting average, home runs, stolen bases, wins, ERA, strikeouts. Let me just talk about those folks at the top, and then you can take it from where you want to go in terms of Allen. You got Cardale, Thibodeau, batting .456. You have top 5 players all batting over 400. Alcorn, Rayfield Adams III, .414.
Yay!
You got Trey Rutledge at .419, tied with Nathan Gomez at .419. So 2 of your Alcorn Braves are at the top of the conference in terms of batting, but they haven't been able to translate in terms of wins. You have Juan Cruz sitting at .442, and I just told you about the top in terms of that. Home runs, Cardale is doing it not just with batting average, but he can swing a bit. He got 10 home runs already on the season. That's pretty nice.
Impressive.
Juan Cruz as well, sitting at the 2 spot with 6 home runs. Again, he can bat for great average and also has the power. Things kind of change up with some of these other ball players out here. When you talk about Jesus, Vanegas is at 5 home runs, tied with Cameron Hill and Landon Williams, all 3 of those with 5 home runs getting it done. Talk a little bit about that batting average, home runs. What are your thoughts in terms of what that looks like?
Yeah, I mean, very, very impressive anytime you're batting, gosh, over 300. But gosh, these guys are closing in on batting 500, 471, 442, 427. Shout out to Rayfield Adams. That's my former teammate's son out there for Alcorn, getting it done. A little lefty plays center field, but he's batting 414. What jumps out for me are these dual threat guys that not only do they get on base, because you'll see their on base percentage is always high, but then once they get on base, they create havoc. So you start taking a look at guys like Trey Rutledge. He's stolen 23 out of 24 bases already thus far this season. Take a look
at. You just said talking about him. He's batting at 419. So
yeah.
First of all, he finds a way to get on, and then he's gonna touch you when he gets on.
Yeah, triple diamond. You know,
he's gonna put himself in scoring position.
Exactly, gonna put himself in scoring position. Jordan McClatty for Jackson State. He stole 21 of 23 bases. So you know, just knowing that they put a lot of pressure on defenses, not only from the plate, but once they get out there on the base paths, you know, that's why I say SWAC catchers, they got to be different. Teams are going to be running. You just got to have that pop-up time up and going because, I mean, once they get on base, they're gone.
We'll switch to the field, if you would, in terms of pitchers. In terms of what they get done, I'm gonna start with strikeouts. You know, that gets you excited. Go sit down. They love to say the SWAC. We'll start at the bottom. At number 5, you have Tanner Bacabello with 30 strikeouts. Eric Elliott, 32 strikeouts. That's Bethune-Cookman and Jackson, respectively. Alabama State has Jordan LaBoy with 35. Then you get into some 40s. Eric Gonzalez, 2 Jackson State guys. Jackson State Gonzalez has 40 strikeouts, and Joel Core with 45. When you talk a little bit about the ERA, your Jordan LaBoy, 4.17. Then it starts to shrink a little bit, gets under that 4-run limit with Shuto Akamura with 3.55. Eric Elliott, we just talked about him being able to strike you out. He also doesn't allow a lot of people on the bases. He's holding folks at 3.54. Our last 3 here is Jafet Martinez at 3 strikeouts, exactly. And then we get under that 3 with Caleb Granger sitting at 2.75, really getting it done in a lot of ways. Strikeouts, ERAs, where you want to go with that?
For me, the strikeout tells me they got stuff. You know, and they're locating their stuff. It's always impressive that you can reach back and throw that low 90s fastball on the corner. That you can pinpoint your spots and things of that nature. But just not giving up the runs. I think that's the big thing for me. The ERA. So looking at a guy like Caleb Granger, only a Friday night starter, one of the top pitchers in the league, 2.03 ERA. Jafet Martinez for Alabama State, 3.0 ERA. Leonardo Bravo, 3.30. So you got Friday night starters that are doing what they're supposed to do. So those are the things that I'm keeping an eye on. Eric Elliott is another one. We got an opportunity to see him back in the Cactus Jack. But going forward, just getting the opportunity to kind of pay attention to a lot of these Friday starters. And then do you have the backup guy, the guy who can come in on a Saturday and keep things in check? That's the part that I haven't seen yet.
Yeah, it'll be interesting, and as you say, to continue to follow that. I'll put this out before we get into some key matchups. But Jafet, that you talked about, Martinez has 3 wins on the season. Garrett Workman has 3 wins, as well as Eric Elliott. Those 3 guys at the top 5 with 3 wins. You got Nick Luckett with 4 wins already, and Tanner Cabello has 4 as well. Let me turn as we start to get in and close some things out. I want to talk about some of these key matchups coming up this weekend series as things get going. There are 3 that pop out to me, 2 that are intriguing because they are those cross matchups, if you would, that we normally wouldn't see. Let me start with those. We had quite a few of them actually on the ledger this weekend across the board. Really, all 6 games do that, but there are 3 of them that really stand out to me. That's at Southern at Bethune-Cookman, Daytona Beach. Long travel in a lot of ways. We haven't seen that. Fascinating. This is one that you usually get in the weekend type of things, or previously they would play if they had a open weekend. But as of late, with the divisions playing so many games, you wouldn't get this matchup other than a 1 or 2 game. Now we get a series. Grambling State at Jackson State. Fascinating for me. The other one is Prairie View taking to Tallahassee to FAMU. Battle of the Ags. We haven't seen this kind of matchup, but you got Prairie View going up to FAMU. You talking about teams that are playing some good baseball. That's 4-2 Prairie View going to 5-1 FAMU. Both teams top 10 essentially in the Black College 9. So I'm interested in those three in terms of your thoughts. If you agree with me, are those the three that kind of capture your imagination early in terms of the season? But Southern, you talking about really needing to find a way to get some wins.
They got to get 2 out of 3.
And they got to do it on the road.
Yeah.
That's the one that really would scare me if I'm Southern fans.
Absolutely. That's absolutely one that I would say to look at. Southern going to Bethune-Cookman. As you mentioned, Prairie View going to Florida A&M. Those are the two that jumped out for me. Just below the radar under those two. Those are the front two. But Arkansas Pine Bluff, big weekend against a big weekend last weekend against Alcorn.
Alcorn, yeah.
Are they the truth? They got Alabama State coming in this weekend, so are the bats still the bats coming in against a much better pitching staff with Alabama State? So it'll be very interesting to see what they can do at home against Alabama State, perennially one of the better teams within the SWAC, and of course,
got to find a way to get 2 out of 3.
And Jackson State already at 4 losses in conference play.
Sure. That's another.
They got to figure out a way to win this series against Grambling.
Obviously, we got to talk about the home team in terms of Texas Southern University. They host Alabama A&M. We don't get to see that matchup, battle of these maroon programs there in terms of colors. They play over there at McGregor Park. It'll be interesting to see what that looks like. I'm sure Alabama A&M fans will be out there to root on the Bulldogs because they just don't get to see them in baseball around these parts. Mm-hmm. So I'm fascinated with that. And then you got your rivalry game, Alcorn State, Mississippi Valley. Both of these teams need some wins. Valley has to find a way to get 2 out of 3.
Got to.
Me being at home, obviously, against a team that is not playing as well. But if Alcorn, the Braves, can find a way to sneak 2 out of 3 or somehow find a way to get a sweep in Valley, that really will have to provide some momentum. So that's kind of interesting in terms of the opposite direction with teams that are not doing as well. What do you say in terms of those final 3 games that I kind of speak about, Charles?
Alabama A&M and Texas Southern is intriguing. You got Texas Southern already kind of jumped out to 4-2 in league play. And like you said, those are those matchups that we don't normally see. But Alabama A&M, big weekend last weekend against Mississippi Valley. Can they carry it over? What will be intriguing to see, Dr. Bill, we got some weather coming through the South this weekend. So how many of these games can we actually get in?
Good stuff when you talk about can we get the games in. That's always a challenge you want to look at in terms of what that looks like. And so as we start to close things out, let's see if we can sneak in and maybe give you an update on some things going on here. You have Coppin State leading Cleveland State in the second round. That's 26-23 women's basketball. 3:22 left before the close of the first half. So keep your eyes on that matchup. That's a good one to put out there. Got an update for Drew on some baseball. He says he looks at errors. Runs allowed and ERA is some of his favorite statistics to look at. The lower the number, the better the record usually. Charles?
I'm going to always look at fielding percentage because giving away free runs drives me crazy. That is my bugaboo. I cannot stand to see 4-5 error games. Not in college. Can't do it.
Yeah, you're right. Both of y'all on the same page. He looked at it from the error side. You looking at it to earn error percentage. So you're right. It's fascinating when you look at that. Thank you for listening to Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends and colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta, Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. I wanted to sneak this in on Drew. I did pay attention at Clark Atlanta Morehouse. I was going to sneak down there for that game. It just didn't work out for me. But I saw that Clark Atlanta got it done, getting the sweep on Saturday to take 2 out of 3, I think it was, for Morehouse. I know they got the 2 games there. So show some love for the Alabama matchup rivalry with Tuskegee getting it done against Miles. Shout out to Chris in terms of this Miles Golden Bears not being able to get it done against the Golden Tigers, but also Clark Atlanta Panthers, the Maroon Tigers over there at Morehouse. Fascinating baseball matchup. We'll use some more updates there. But with that being said, again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Ville's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Watson and Charles Bishop every Tuesday and Thursday. We'll be back on Thursday to give you updates for basketball. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil. That's Facebook's Instagram, DrKenyattaCavil. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab on Facebook and YouTube. As you know, dream big. Continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles?
Of course.
Roy?
Lecture.
Dismiss.